poll on February the 6th, 2023. I am Councillor Dawn Quinn here with the meeting this evening. The land acknowledgement. On February 6, 2023, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been the site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and the water in order that we might be here today. We also are grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in making the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Today, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. So welcome. No amendments to the agenda. Hearing none. Any disclosures of monetary interest? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I need to declare a conflict with agenda item 3, the municipal grants presentations. I'm employed by one of the applicants. And this may also apply to part of agenda item 8.1, the third draft budget deliberations. And if it does, I would ask that we separate the grant discussion from the budget discussion so that I can participate in budget decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also have to declare a conflict of interest with 3.3 with the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario, because I sit on that as a board member. So having all that taken care of, if there's nothing else, we'll move right on to our delegations. And this evening, we are very pleased to have Angie Beaupre here with us from Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Lanark County. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you for having me. Just go ahead and share my screen here. If I can do that properly. There we are. Is that through clear?
That's looking great.
Okay. Thank you for asking me to speak today and for your support of the WAC program here in Smith Falls. In 2017, the Smith Falls Youth Center closed, and the town of Smith Falls reached out to Big Brothers Big Sisters to see if we could assist in filling that service gap. WAC was created with the help of many community partners, funders, and including the town. The program was founded in core principles shared with Big Brothers Big Sisters. WAC creates an individual and group mentoring relationships among staff, volunteers, and youth. Mentorship is a two-way learning and development partnership where the young person's needs are placed at the center. Because young people's brains are still developing, mentoring can support that process through a back and forth interaction like a volley in a good game of ping pong. A safe, supervised, and engaging place to go in after school hours is also a proven way to empower youth for a better future. We started upstairs in the youth arena, and the program ran there until fall of 2022, when we were offered a space by Carebridge on Main Street. The new space has enabled us to serve more youth, offer a broader range of programming, and with a large kitchen, expand our food service to the participants. Due to the expanded space with divided rooms, we have increased our staff levels to now consistently have 3 staff on each night. In 2022, we had a total of 1,123 visits by Smith Falls youth. 262 individual youth participated. Current attendance is averaging 25 youth a night. It's a busy place. There are a number of young men attending the program at WAC currently. We just brought in a new program coordinator, and she was trying to contain all of that energy these young men brought to the space. She found them playing dodgeball, and one of the gentlemen threw a ball really hard at her. To his surprise, she picked up the ball, returned it with the same energy. Respect was earned, and the young men stepped up and began to fully participate in the WAC programming after that interaction. We are grateful for the financial and physical support provided by the town over the last 5 years. The consistency in funding has been appreciated. We did ask for a small increase in 2023 as staffing and food costs are rising significantly. It is our mandate to feed the youth each night, and as the cost of food is putting an increased stress on families. By offering a meal, a nutritious and hearty snack, we know that the youth are having something to eat each night that they are at program. As you have heard before, a study conducted by the Boston Consultant Group showed that for every dollar invested in Big Brothers Big Sisters mentoring program, $18 is returned to society. Mentoring works, and WAC is making a difference right here in Smith Falls. Thank you for your investment. This is a list of further partners as well. This has been a real team sport. Does anyone have any questions about WAC or Big Brothers Big Sisters?
Thank you, Angie. That was a great presentation. Does anyone have any comments or questions? I don't see any hands up. I think you must be doing a great job and everybody's very pleased. And thank you for coming out this evening.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate your time. Thank you. Okay. Now when we're ready, we will move on with Ramsey Hart, the Table Community Food Center. Ramsey, are you ready to go?
Yes, Councillor Quinn, I am.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks very much for having me. Let me just get my presentation up there. So nice to see you all again. It's been about a year, and welcome to the new councillors. Thank you all for running again or for the first time. It's a big job you've taken on, and I know the community appreciates it. I'd like to just do a overview of our programming and expansion of programming into Smith Falls. As you know, the table is centered in Perth, but due to invitations from council members as well as other partner groups, we are actively working and expanding programming to Smith Falls. I want to share a bit of our vision, the partners we're working with, what we've been up to in the past year, and some plans looking ahead. It's a lot to cram into 5 minutes, and so I'll skip over some things very quickly, but I'm always available for further discussion or conversation. Just feel free to drop me an email or call anytime. So, as I'm sure you've observed yourselves going shopping, food costs are increasingly going up. When I looked at this at the end of the year, the prediction was for 11% food inflation. That may be even more now. Combined with other cost pressures, especially for folks living on lower incomes like rent inflation, the situation is becoming increasingly difficult for folks. I'd encourage you to look at the health unit's food insecurity infographic if you haven't seen it before. I've extracted a portion of that in this presentation, but you can find the full thing on the health unit's website, and it really gives you a clear picture of the challenges folks that are living on minimum wage, social assistance are facing to afford healthy food. Also, as the infographic points out, limited access to healthy food contributes to long-term chronic conditions that ultimately result in increased healthcare costs for folks that are living with food insecurity. The infographic makes it a really strong point that the solution to food insecurity is addressing people's income, and we agree very much with that. But in the meantime, we also feel there are things that we can do to help alleviate some of these challenges in the short term, including offering meal programs, as well as ensuring access to healthy food through support for our food banks and other food programming. At the table, we see poverty and food insecurity as linked with another challenge, which is social isolation and low community engagement. And our programs are designed to address both of these issues. So we're not just looking at food, we're also looking at creating a healthier and more connected community. So the table operates a variety of programs as a community food center, and the food center concept is something we've adapted and applied in Perth and are excited to expand to Smith Falls. So it's about good food. It's about giving an opportunity for people to learn as well, and to really be part of something as opposed to a passive recipient of something. Real focus on healthy foods and advocating for changes in the long run that hopefully could more substantively address food insecurity and poverty. We know the system, the model that we've been implementing in Perth works. We're one of 15 across Canada, and the results from annual surveys of participants show that it works. Also, as I mentioned this last time I spoke with you, but there's a informative study from Ottawa that shows that the more programs we can add to a service center, the more likely it is to actually result in improvements in food security. So having a variety of entrance points and a variety of opportunities for people to work with us is really important. So the Falls Food Hub, when we're up and running, will improve access to nourishing foods. It'll be a welcoming, dignified place that provides ample opportunities to learn, socialize, engage, and connect with others. And it will be welcome to all. We worked with quite a few different partners in making progress so far, and we'll continue to do so. So in 2022, we used the resources provided by the town and others to support 2 ongoing lunch programs. The Legion Ladies Auxiliary were doing an amazing job with their volunteer team, offering 200 meals a week, including a frozen meal from Community Home Support. And then we also had the lunch at Hanley Hall, run by, again, volunteers there. And we also introduced a holiday meal at the end of the year. We also were actively soliciting new funds through a variety of grant applications. We also spent a fair bit of time looking for space. Having a solid permanent location is a really important part of this vision. Unfortunately, where we ended up was what seemed like an amazing opportunity to be co-located with Carabridge's new project at 44 Chambers. Unfortunately, we just found out as the new year started that this wasn't going to work due to some building code restrictions. I can get into that more if you like, but suffice to say, we are now back once again looking for a permanent home. We received a total of $107,000 towards our project, and we spent about $40,000 last year. We want to be able to continue operating through this year, so we'll be rolling forward some of those funds this year, as well as keeping some of those funds aside for our capital project once we do find our new home. Hence the interest in applying for additional funds this year, even though we did carry a surplus forward from last year. Just to give you a sense of the capital costs of what we're talking about, kitchen outfitting will be $185,000 with the dining room, in addition to renovations that are needed for our future home. And in 2023, we've changed the takeout lunch that was happening with the Legion to an in-person experience, lots of opportunities for socializing and connecting with additional supports, thanks to the community health workers from Rideau Community Health Services. Looking ahead, we are excited to increase the number of meals we're offering. We'll be running a community kitchen programming and working with YAC to return to our youth programming as well, and looking for that permanent home that we long for, and continuing to promote and fundraise for our activities in Smiths Falls. And the promotion was off to a good start this year with a wonderful article produced by Evelyn Hart in the local paper and online, and I hope you had a chance to read that. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ramsey. Are there questions, comments for Ramsey? Mayor Panko?
Thank you. Get my cursor over to unmute myself. Thanks, Ramsey. Very informative, and obviously it's nice to see this whole initiative evolve, and the community meals now 1 day a week at Hanley Hall, with a plan to add a dinner at least once a week. And I know the vision is to build upon that. And we know that the needs are out there, not just for food security, but as you mentioned, to help fight social isolation, to try and help connect people to resources. Can you comment any further on sort of the vision for 2023? And you've talked about space and the challenges in trying to find suitable space, but also I think about the need to be ready to, I guess, take advantage of space when it's available and have the ability to outfit it as needed. And rather than, so I guess that go back to the mentality, I guess you're trying to keep some reserves on hand to prepare to jump when that time comes.
Yeah, so the table is committed through our board of directors. We committed $75,000 from our reserve funds to go towards the capital costs of outfitting a new location when we do find that. And then with some funds available through the deferred money that we didn't use last year, we did apply for those grants, both the town as well as when we were in touch with Canopy and the other funding sources that you saw listed there. Those applications were made with an idea that a portion of those funds would be used for the capital project, not just for operating funds. And so holding those aside will allow us, once we find that space, to be able to move forward and to also demonstrate, for example, if we were applying to the Trillium Foundation, we can say, we have matching funds. We're going to ask you for $100,000, but we have 100,000 or more available to match that. And that will make those applications much stronger and give folks much more confidence that we do have the resources to move forward with this.
Thank you.
That answers your question.
Councillor McKenna, did you have something?
Thanks so much, Ramsey. And I guess my question is a tough one for you, and the table is, you're trying to do this, and also you had a full-time job before you got hooked up with Smiths Falls. Is it fair to ask you to do all this, or like, are you able to? Is any of that money going to backfill some of your time, I guess? And I wouldn't object if it was. It's a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. So thank you, Peter, for recognizing that it is a lot to take on, and it is, and it has been. And I think additional capacity would allow us to move faster. And so my board has mandated me to look at increasing our management capacity here at the table. Stay tuned for some announcements about that in the future. And that will be primarily funded through our ongoing operating revenue. We just recognize that we are trying to do too much with too little and spreading things too thin. You will also notice in my, I'm not sure if you saw the financial summary or the report from last year's grant that I submitted, if that works its way up to council, but we did include costs towards the table for administration and well, it's in the budget summary that I showed, I guess, for some of our salary time and administration. So yes, we are accounting for that. Yes, we do need more support to move this forward, and we are looking at that at the table to add a operations manager kind of position here to make sure that between us we have the capacity to move things forward. And you know, we're also working with some really amazing folks in Smiths Falls, both on a volunteer level and on the staff level. Having Jay Ride take over the Monday meal and coordinate that has been a great addition for us.
If I may, Madam Chair, just one more, and I support this grant application, by the way. The question was a year ago, and the steering committee went out to the public and asked for people to actually send in their names and email addresses. Did you get much of a response, and have you been able to maintain contact with those people?
Not as much contact as I would like, to be honest, and I would have hoped that we had more good news to share in terms of the location and the expansion of programming. But we have continued to be in touch, and certainly when we started up the Monday lunch program for the dine-in, we needed some volunteers, and the amazing women from the Ladies Auxiliary at the Legion were ready for a break. And so we reached out, and we've got twice as many people interested as we needed to volunteer for that program. So we've got sort of a backup list of folks when we do expand. And we continue to be in touch on a sort of every few months basis with the 180 people that contacted us and said they were interested in staying in touch with the program. So we had a great response. We've got a good list started of people that are interested in supporting the program, and they showed up to volunteer when we took on the Monday meal.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Ramsey, I'm thinking one of your problems is that people really don't know too much about the table. I know some about it because I know of someone that volunteers in Perth. To me, it seems like a great program, and it's, you know, you're serving food to these people and they're socializing. I think that is a positive. So I certainly hope as you go forward that you get more support and more awareness of what it is that you're taking on here. And Mayor Panko?
Yeah, just a final comment, Ramsey. I know I'm correct in assuming that everyone, and absolutely everyone, is welcome to go to the community dinners at Hanley Hall on Monday. So anyone who'd like to find out more, like to connect with the members of the community, make some friends, everyone is welcome.
If I had a last word to have offered, that was going to be exactly it, Mayor Panko. So thank you for getting ahead of me and offering that invitation. It's a wonderful atmosphere. I didn't get out today, but I haven't at most of the meals so far. Great atmosphere, really great opportunity to connect with community members and see how things are going for them. And the food is also excellent.
So what time is this? So we can really.
Great. So doors open at 11 for coffee and tea is on, and then we serve lunch between 12 and 1 at Hanley Hall.
Lovely.
Mondays.
Lovely. Well, good luck, and thank you for coming out this evening to speak with us. We really do appreciate that. Thank you.
You all.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on. I'm going to turn this part over to Councillor McKenna for me, please, because I have a conflict of interest because I sit on the Railway Museum Board. So I'll have Councillor McKenna take this on, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to welcome Becky Allen from the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario, who's one of the very few staff who work there. And we're delighted to have you. And again, over to you and your slideshow.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me today. Okay.
You're on mute, Becky. And I'm sure you can get off of mute.
Sorry, guys. It's saying my microphone's disabled when I jump over to my screen share, so I'm just going to try that again. I thought it worked okay when we tried it out. We're going to try this again. Just let me know if it's muted again.
Sure. Computers are taking over the world.
Let's try this.
You look good
Okay.
so far.
How's that?
There you go.
You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I just thought I would start by, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of the Railway Museum. The Railway Museum, the building itself, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Keep going.
The building itself was acquired about 40 years ago, actually, from being demolished a few years after the last train went through for the CN line. And it was a museum officially by about 1989. It's now a 10-acre property. And it's a very important museum, a keeper of stories and a teller of the development of both the social development and the economic development of the town of Smiths Falls, but also Eastern Ontario and really across Canada. And so much of Smiths Falls was developed because of the railway. And so it's really an important cultural beacon in the town of Smiths Falls. And so it's also the biggest tourist attraction in Smiths Falls. So I'm just going to scroll down to the next page. So Smiths Falls, this is Smiths Falls' largest tourist attraction at the Railway Museum. Mostly we get people from Ottawa and about 2 hours away, within 2 hours. But we also have had visitors from all over Ontario, Canada, and the world. This year was the biggest year the Railway Museum has ever had, with almost 14,000 visitors. We had 14 major events that happened this year. So again, the most events we've ever had. And we also had our biggest Airbnb year with 343 overnight stays in the caboose. So I used the TRIUM model, which is something developed by the Ontario Ministry of Heritage and Sport. And together that adds up to a $4.8 million impact on Smiths Falls and surrounding areas for gross visitor spending. So it's a big economic impact. I'm going to jump down and talk a little bit about our Airbnb. And this year we received a grant which has not been totally publicized yet. We received a grant for our Overnight in the Caboose program, which has been around for a few years. So we ended up actually receiving almost $100,000. So it was a little more than 96. It was 99 and change. They had a little extra to give us. And those funds came from the TRF program that was administered through Odo. And we invested that money into our 3 cabooses. So the 3 cabooses all received a complete renovation and remodel inside out. They are totally authentic. So everything was restored to its original, actually we took colors back to original colors. So we really tried to make them authentic. It also went into improvement because it tied it into the museum. Kitchen and bathrooms are shared by the Airbnbs. So we're able to invest in those pieces as well. They also allowed us to improve the actual museum. We also were able to fix floorboards on the deck boards and invest in a expensive air conditioning unit for the dining car, which will allow us to use the dining car because it's really like a greenhouse. And so that investment was really huge for the museum.
Just so you know,
I just wanted to go over those events that we had throughout this year. We had the North Pole Express, which is our Christmas event. We had a very popular Harry Potter focused event, and we had a partnership with the museum foundation, or sorry, the hospital foundation this year, and a train fest and several other events throughout the year. And these were just great opportunities to really get the word out about Smiths Falls and about our museum. And most of these events sold out within a few, some of them a few days, some of them 24 hours. The train rides would sell out. So they're very popular and just growing all the time. A little bit we're asking for. So in this year of being with the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario, we've had, a huge year in 2022. But when we're looking to the future, there's tremendous opportunity for the museum to attract even more people, to grow our Airbnb, to grow our events, to grow the different, really grow our property. We have 10 acres and we only use a portion of it. And so really the sky is the limit for the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario. But what we're really looking for investment from the town of Smiths Falls is help with staffing, and staffing will allow us to spend more time on the support with operations will help us be able to spend more time on grant writing and growing the museum and growing our assets and our collection and everything like that. So the investment that we receive in the town of Smiths Falls, we really believe will go right back into our community, and we think it's really important. Just wanted to show the gentlemen that are behind much of the Railway Museum, and these men spend anywhere between 20 and 40 hours. And we actually have now some new additions to our board and our key volunteers, and we have some amazing females. So this is an old photo, but we've got some wonderful new volunteers that are very engaged, and we've got a fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Becky. And you'll just take that screen down. Perfect. We got 80% of what you said. There was some gaps in some of it, but I'm pretty sure we got it all. It was just the screen was clear. Your points were made, but we missed a couple of the ands and thes, but I think we picked it up. Any questions or comments from council? Just Mayor Pancho.
No, thank you, Becky. And it's, I guess, refreshing when we see the Railway Museum having such success coming out of the pandemic, and not just in drawing visitors to our community, but in providing such value to our community and members of our community and the children and all the fun that's had. So just really encouraging to see plans to continue to grow and expand and prosper. And certainly I'm supportive of the initiative, and I look forward to a great 2023 for the Railway Museum.
Thank you.
Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Hi, Becky. Did I hear correctly, not during your presentation, but that the Railway Museum is also the largest tourist draw in Lanark County? Did I hear that?
I don't specifically have that data, but I would think that for Lanark County, if you were going to make exception to, it would be tough for me to say for sure. I think some of the other big tourist attractions, if you were going to think like a museum or something like that, I think it would be very competitive.
I just wondered because I had heard that, and I thought, gee, that's pretty fantastic, especially since the numbers that you're showing and the work that you're doing. Anyway, that's all I wanted. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments? Well, thanks so much, Becky. And for the public, what we've done is invited in the three organizations that received this exceptional grant from the town, and the town is very pleased to be able to support our local community groups and of course the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario, our #1 tourist attraction. So thank you. Okay, I'll turn it back over to Chair Quinn if she's still with. There she is. Thank you.
I'm here. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. And moving on, there's no adoptions of minutes, and I understand there are no CEO or directors reports this evening. So I now need a motion to, and no correspondent items either. Now I need a motion to move in camera for a personnel issue about identifiable individuals. I need a motion to move in camera. Can I have someone? Councillor Robinson. All in agreement?
Oh.
Move in camera, please. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Quinn, can you say it was moved by Councillor Robinson? Who was the seconder for that?
I didn't have one, sorry.
Oh, sorry, that's okay. If we could get one.
Peter, can I have Peter? I've been snaggling him tonight to do all this. Thank you, Peter.
Perfect. So we'll just move in camera here. Okay. So we should be back in here. We'll just get the live stream to the screen. Wonderful. We got everybody. Perfect. Okay, Madam Chair, you are now back in open session.
Thank you very kindly. And the Verizon report for this in-camera issue was about identifiable individuals for committee appointments, and this will come forward at possibly this evening.
Yes, Madam Chair, if we could just add that as priority issue 8.4.
Thank you. Added as 8.4. Okay. Thank you very much. Now we move into priority issues, and the first 8.1 is 2023 third draft budget report, and that is with CAO Malcolm Morris, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So our interim treasurer, Mr. Dickey, is not with us this evening, so I'll be your treasurer for tonight. So we have, you have a report that was published last Thursday. And this really is the third draft of the 2023 budget. So council may recall back in December, you provided staff with direction with budget guidelines. So we built a budget around those guidelines. We came back on January 9th and with a shortfall of about 1.7 million. So you went to work after a lot of thoughtful and considered discussion. We met again on the 17th, I think it was, of January, and again on the 30th. And through those discussions, you found or directed staff to find about 2.17 million in capital spending. And I think what's important is these projects were not eliminated, they were deferred, which I think there's an important distinction there, that it was felt they were all important projects. We just came to the realization we couldn't do them all in 2023. So that was a tremendous change to the budget, which got us close to where we need to be. But on the once the county of Lanark introduced their budget, we found that our portion of the shared services that we purchased from them went up by $269,000. So that changed things a little bit for us. We did find some operational savings to bring that number down to 251,000 shortfall. Since then, the Police Chief McGilvery has confirmed a couple of funding programs, 3 of them, in fact, that will contribute 33,000 to the police budget in revenue that we had not incorporated in the earlier drafts. So that essentially brings the operating shortfall down to 218,000. So if we overlay that with the reductions in capital spending for 2023, we end up with a shortfall of about 97,000. I will point out on page 3 of the report, there is a typo at the top of the page. It shows reduction in transfer of 212. That should actually be 218. And that number originates from page 2. So the report shows a shortfall of 91. It's actually 97,000. So what's important and what I want to point out is when council looked at the capital budget, there were deferrals in both the tax supported side and the utilities supported side, water and wastewater. So just by way of review, of the 2.17, 1.83 was on the tax-based side, and about 332 net was found on the utility-based side. So together that's 2.17. But what's important is you found more savings on the utility side, and not quite enough savings on the tax base side to close that gap of 97,000. The good news is we've done a projection of what those reserves will look like at the end of 2023. So we took the reserve balances at the end of 2022. We looked at the amount we're going to contribute to each of those reserves, the amount we're going to basically take from those reserves based on the spending plan that you've almost endorsed. And what that means is that those reserves at year end are projected to be 500,000 on the utilities reserves and 1.1 on the tax supported reserve. So what that means is the 97,000 shortfall can be funded from the tax-based reserve without going into a negative position. In fact, we'll still have slightly in excess of $1 million in the tax-based reserve if you approve the budget as presented in draft number 3. So perhaps I'll pause there, Madam Chair, and I'd be delighted to answer any questions.
Anyone having comments, questions? No hands up? Councillor McKenna, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Seal Morris, interim treasurer. That's good news, what you've just told us about the tax-based reserve and the other reserve. I guess I like our acting treasurer. He sent a nice report looking at the municipalities across Ontario, Eastern Ontario, and I'm very pleased to be supporting this budget and the tax increases. I think Smith Falls has done an excellent job in keeping the increases to the minimum that we could compared to many of our peers. I did have a question. I noticed when I look around at the other municipalities, sometimes they present their rate increase on capital and the rate increase on operating separately, and we've combined them. I just wondered if there was, what the reason for that is. I'm speculating it is that people can better understand looking at operating and separating it out from the capital. And I don't know what our numbers would look like if we did that. And I don't know if there's any merit when we do finalize the budget in our communications. But I just wondered if you had any thoughts or comments.
Yeah, through the chair. So a really good question. And the past practice here at the town of Smith Falls has been to take the total revenue from various sources, property taxation being the biggest, comparing that or offsetting that against our operating costs, and the balance was directed towards capital. What many municipalities do is they keep them separate. And typically to contribute to their capital reserves, they would have a capital levy. And in some of the data we provided to you, you can see some have a 1 or 1.5, 2% capital levy. So every year they take 2% and put it into a reserve or various reserves to expressly fund capital programs. So it amounts to the same thing in the end, but it does provide a little bit more discipline in financial planning when you rely on a percentage of operating costs to fund your reserves. Both work. I think this approach has worked well for us in the past. One of the things, in talking about those reserves, they are probably smaller than I would like them to be. There are bona fide reasons for that. The water tower is certainly consuming a lot of the utilities-based reserve. That's why it's going down, because we have this huge capital project. That's not uncommon. They fluctuate. On the tax-based side, of course, Catherine Street's a large project, and that's drawing the reserve down. What's important is we have a plan to replenish the reserve over time, build it back up until we have another big project. All this to say, as you know, we are recruiting for a new treasurer, and when that person comes in, I expect they may want to look at how we do things. They may want to look at it differently. I'm an advocate of a capital levy because it really promotes discipline in keeping within that amount. So the 2024 budget might be approached a little bit differently depending on how our new treasurer wants to approach it. But both approaches work, I think, equally well. And the approach we have, I think, has served us well in the past.
If I could just finish, I thank you, Sarah Morse, and I agree with you. I think there's something to be said for really honing, especially with our asset management plan, getting more robust and sophisticated all the time, that we have our eye on our capital expenditures and our reserves. And that I hope we could have a discussion with the new treasurer, not only about that, but perhaps the merits of looking out longer than 1 year and projecting. So perhaps it is a good time to look at our budget development process and perhaps upgrading it. Thank you.
CAO Morris.
Yeah, and I think just to augment what was said, the beauty of a capital levy is that we can forecast further into the future, knowing we can reasonably predict what the capital contribution to the reserve will be every year and predict out further, which opens the door for multi-year capital budgeting. So that's something I'd like to engage council in that discussion over the course of this year. So we have a more stable flow of cash into the reserve and consequently more predictability about what we can take out of it.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to build on something Councillor McKenna said around communication, I really appreciated the breakout of the increased cost per household. I thought that helped me really get my head around what this meant for individual taxpayers and property owners. So I appreciated that very much and support this draft.
Thank you. Any other comments? I don't see any other hands up. Okay, I'll chime in here just briefly.
I had my hand up, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Brennan.
I don't know if you see everybody, but there's hands everywhere.
No, I don't. I'm new at this, Jay.
That's okay. No worries. So I guess we'll go ahead. I think Councilor McGuire and the mayor had their hands up as well.
Okay.
But I will support the budget. We look around the area and what the inflation rate is. I was always very big on trying to keep it at or below the inflation rate, and we've done that. I did have one sort of a technical question, and I think I asked it before, and it's on the capital side, the streets we're going to pave and mill. And I was just hoping to get a breakdown of which streets we're going to do. I think it was $800,000. So if we can get that in sort of the near future, that would be great. And yeah, I'm sorry.
So Madam Chair, if I may, Director McMunn is with us this evening. I'll refer to him. I know he has a list. Perhaps he can share it with us.
Yes, I'll share it before this meeting is out. I can send it out via email if that suits you, Councillor.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great.
That's great. And then as we had a little discussion there about a capital levy, or you can call it whatever you want. I mean, we're spending. We've got $18 million in capital spending this year. That's huge and massive, as we know. And it's more than last year. And last year at the time, I was like, that's more than I've ever seen. So we're doing well on that side. So we have to remember there's only one taxpayer, and we have to keep our fiscal house in order. And but I'm happy to talk about that sort of thing. But I'm going to support the budget this year, and I think that we've done relatively good job. And compared to our neighbors around here, I think it's the best we can do. So I'll support it.
Thank you. Councillor McGuire, were you looking to chime in here?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I share CAO Morris's concern with the transfer to reserves. I think 91,000 is a manageable amount. I think the Center Street project would be a good one to postpone, and then that would leave a $41,000 gap to close. But I don't think the big numbers of capital spending, I don't think is going to change anytime soon when we've got such an array of aging assets. So I get really uncomfortable when our reserves are already less than what we'd like them to be. And then this year we're going to be further behind in that schedule of catching up. So I'd really like to see if there's a way we could find that 91,000 somewhere.
Thank you. Any comments on that, CEO Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. One of the there is potential, particular for funding that we haven't necessarily identified or certainly haven't secured at this point. So I would take the Confederation Drive crossing as an example. We budgeted the full amount of that project with no revenue from other sources. And you know, I think we hold a pretty good chance of securing some funding. So whatever we secure, if it's over 97,000, we will have eliminated that deficit and therefore that additional draw on the reserve. So I'm reasonably comfortable we'll be able to find ways of making that up over the course of the year. I just can't put it on paper and confirm it's in the bank right now, but I'm hopeful we'll find it.
Mayor Panko?
Yeah, thank you. I like what's been said. I think, I mean, if you look at our operating budget, it's up about 10% this year. And while inflation may not be that high, you know, that's core inflation, which is down around 6.2, I think, right now. Certain elements of inflation are hitting us harder than others. And of course, we're a growing municipality. We have to staff and resource property. So we're seeing, when we see our operating side of about 10%, and then to Councillor Brennan's point, over $18 million, $400,000 in capital work is probably the largest we've had since the water treatment plant was built over 10 years ago. And so yes, we're maybe not adding to the reserves we'd like to, but when we have significant capital years, especially a project like the water tower, it's understandable that we save for that. We help offset the cost through those reserves. There will always be major capital projects we have to do, but probably none to the extent of that in the next few years. We all know that deferral capital work doesn't get us where we would like to be. We know we have a responsibility to keep our house in order, maintain our assets, and make those financial commitment as we need to. So overall, and as much as we'd love to see a lower increase, I think 3.38 on the tax and the 3.5 and 5.5, I think it is on the water is responsible. And to do less of that, defer more work simply means we're having more expenses for next year. And we get negative surprises. I think it's a bar screen project, which come in, $200,000 or $300,000 more than we expected. These things happen. And we're still fortunate that we are experiencing great residential development growth in our community. A lot of that will bear fruit in the future as those units get finished and occupied, and we'll see our tax base continue to grow. But I think for this year, I think we've done a reasonably good job of balancing the interests of the taxpayer with the need to maintain the municipality.
Thank you, Mayor Panko. Councillor Robinson, did you have anything you wanted to chime in on?
Yeah, thank you. I'm in agreement with just about everybody. I will support the budget, and I'm very happy that we're able to look at a budget that's lower than inflation and lower than a lot of the communities that surround us. So, like, you know, the staff have done a good job, and that's really all I had to say about it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Can I'm just going to chime in here for a minute. CAO Morris, on the Confederation Bridge, if we get funding for that, if is this going to get built this year? I guess that's where I need to start. Or will
Well,
that be in next budget?
Yeah, I think there's really good potential it could be built this year. And let me explain what I mean by that. So the direction council provided us was to reach out to Parks Canada to look at potential synergies or a partnership with their existing crossing. We've done that. We got a response on Friday, so we are setting up a dialogue to see if there's potential there. So we will circle back and report the results of that discussion. So it depends on how much time that dialogue consumes. It will influence how quickly we can get going. But we're only in early February, so I think there's good potential we could have it done by the end of this fiscal year.
Okay. And please don't get me wrong. If the bridge is going to get built, I realize that something's going to happen there. I just think 1.2 million seems like an awful price tag for a bridge when we do have a walking bridge that cost $200,000 a couple of years ago, and prices have gone up. I'm not saying they haven't. So I could feel really comfortable if we took that particular item and instead of having 1.2 million, maybe drop it down to 700,000. That would still give us lots of money for a walking bridge. Like 1.2 just seems pretty rich. And I'm way off base. I mean, I haven't been having my head in any of these kind of things for a few years. So, you know, I'm not totally sure about that, but I'm looking for feelings on it, I guess.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we're all committed to try and find the best solution for that crossing and the best price. And so I think if we remember part of the price, I think about 250 to 300,000 is actually the cost to remove the old bridge. So even if we decide we weren't putting anything there, we've got a major cost simply to remove that old structure before it falls into the river. Secondly, I guess whatever, if we're successful in our grant application for that crossing, and council agrees on a bridge crossing that is suitable for there, which may mean it may not be a replica of what we see, of what's there today. It may be something that looks different. We don't know. There's all kinds of options available, right? In the end, if we end up spending a lot less money, it simply means we have more money in our capital reserve to deal with our projects next year. So I would be comfortable proceeding with the budget as it stands, and hopefully we come up with some savings that enable us to utilize that money next year or future years.
Okay, that has been a concern of mine, and I'm not saying the bridge is not going to get built. And I have had some discussion on some ideas for there, and that's fine. I still am just feeling that that's a lot of money for that bridge. And as far as the rest of the budget goes, I don't know, like, I mean, the water rates, they seem really high to me. I know we have to get to the point where it all pays for itself. So in my idea, if we left the water rates where they were, could we drop the property tax rate a little bit, just so we look like we're really trying to help people? I mean, a lot of people are having a hard time living in their own homes, paying their bills, trying to get by. And I'm just trying to, you know, soften things, create a little cushion, make things a little easier to, and CAO Morris, I'll look to you at maybe for a comment.
Yeah, so I mean, if that were the direction of council, we could certainly have a look at what we would need to remove to make that work. I would remind council, though, that last year we had a 0% increase. So if you look over the period of 2 years, it's still far below inflation. I believe the year before that it was less than 2. So we could put some numbers together. But if you look on average, our tax rate increases have been measurably below inflation. And inflation at the end of November was 6.1%. This budget is 3.38. So I think you've come up with direction that while still an increase, is reasonable given the economic climate we're living in. And the comparison that we shared with you was to just kind of demonstrate that every council in Ontario is having the same struggle. And we're probably middle of the road in terms of those 18 or 20 municipalities we summarized.
And I totally realize that, and I appreciated the comparisons. I just want people to be able to say, no, Smith Falls is the best place to go to live, because, you know, they really fight to keep the costs down. So that's why I'm saying, you know, if we left the water rates the way we were and take the property tax, say, down even to 2.5%, that would cushion things just a little. Just a suggestion. And I don't know whether anyone else is on the same page as me or not, but it's my opinion. Councillor McKenna?
I was just going to add that I think all of council has been working for the last 2 months at doing exactly what you're suggesting, Councillor Quinn, is we have reduced the, it was much higher before, and we've worked hard with staff to bring that down. So we all share the same sentiment. And I think I think we have a consensus here to arrive at a modest, just below inflation increase. And I'm proud of it. And I think council and staff have done a terrific job in getting us here.
Thank you. Any other comments from anyone? No?
I had one more, Don.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Yes,
okay.
Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, just further to that, and Don and Councillor Quinn and the mayor will know that I do not hesitate to not support a budget. And in this case, you know, when we're 3 points below inflation, I mean, we have inflation too. That affects the town as well. So for that reason, that's why I'm going to support it. But, you know, given it back in the day or whenever, I wouldn't hesitate to say no way. But I just don't see another way around this to keep afloat. So that's why I'm supporting it.
Okay, I guess my thing was, I was just looking, are there options? Is there something that could happen that we could take it down just a little bit? That, you know, if you never ask, you never know.
100%.
You never receive the answers. So nothing else on this? Then we will move, CEO Morris.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Quinn. So just to kind of reiterate what the direction is that we're seeking. So later on this evening at the council meeting, we're anticipating, if committee is in support, and it seems you are, that the budget would receive first and second reading this evening and come back on the 21st of February for third reading. We recommend giving that period of time for people to comment. But what we're also recommending is that there seems to be consensus over the water and wastewater rates, that they be given all three readings tonight so that we can continue on with our billing cycle, because this budget is anchored on those new rates beginning January 1st. So if there's a comfort level, that would be our recommended path forward this evening.
And I see some thumbs up on that, CEO Morris.
Great,
I do.
thank you.
Okay. Nothing else on this one. We'll now move on to lift part lot control, Bellamy Farm, phase 2. And this is with our planner, Carl Grenke, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm reporting from Director Costello's office this evening. My Zoom wasn't quite working, so I will just speak on the part lot control applications that are before council. So the previous council had seen a number of these move through the pipeline, but this is the last administrative step through the subdivision approval process for Bellamy Farms, and this is the step where townhouse blocks that have been created through the subdivision process are actually divided into the individual parts that are being conveyed to individual property owners and sold for freehand occupancy. So so through the subdivision approval, roughly 37 blocks were created in this phase of the subdivision, each of which were intended to be conveyed for sold to individuals. The challenge we have through the planning process is that we can't say exactly where those lot lines are going to be until the foundations are in the ground, and that gives us that opportunity to make sure we can be very, very precise in terms of defining those. So the Planning Act gives us that tool to survey those lots once the foundations are the ground, once we know where exactly those lines are going to be, and then we can, from that point forward, we have the legal descriptions. Council can pass a bylaw that does something called lifting part lot control, and lifting part lot control allows these blocks of the subdivision process to be divided. In this case, the applicants, Parkview Homes, have requested that we pass those bylaws for 6 of the blocks, creating the individual townhouse blocks. These were the surveys have been provided and verified by planning and public works staff, confirming zoning compliance, as well as ensuring that the appropriate servicing easements are in place. So it's the recommendation of staff that council adopts a bylaw lifting the part lot control provisions of the Planning Act for the individual blocks referenced in the report. And I'll welcome any questions from committee.
Comments, questions from anyone? No, I'm seeing a thumbs up. So it all sounds good. Okay, so that will come forward later this evening. Thank you, in a bylaw. Thank you. Appreciate that. Now we move forward and we're back with CEO Morris again on the fire truck loan renewal report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm enjoying this treasurer gig. We get to spend money. So at our last meeting, pardon me?
I said, maybe we have a new treasurer.
Yes, a new career. I think it's best left to professionals, but at any rate, I can read what the treasurer wrote. So at the last meeting, a recommendation was made to renew the loan for the fire truck that was purchased 10 years ago. And the direction at the time was to consider other options, other terms, that is. So we brought back several options based ranging from a 1-year fixed term up to a 10-year fixed term. And we also received a rate for a 1-year variable. Bearing in mind, all of these rates are effective the date we asked for them, which was February 1st. What will matter is what the rate is on February 22nd when the loan is administered or taken out, so to speak. So the information is there. They've gone up slightly from last week, but the 5-year fixed rate is 5.02, the 10-year fixed rate is 5.27, and the 1-year variable is 6.2. I should note that the fixed rates that are provided have 0% prepayment privileges, so we cannot pay them down at any point. The variable we can. Given the budget discussion we just had, it's not likely that we're going to have a pot of money where we can pay this down. I offer that just as insight in your decision. So, Madam Chair, I'll leave it at that and answer any questions.
Comments, questions? Do I see any rising hands here? Are there hands that I can't see?
Councillor Robinson first.
Mine was up, Don. It's really hard. It'd be great if we had a crystal ball to see what's going to happen. But based on the on the figures that we have in front of us, I'm a little bit hesitant to go in 1, 2, or possibly even 3-year fixed term. But 4-year fixed term, I'd be comfortable supporting because of the 5.01%, which is lower. It's the lowest out of the bunch. And I'm pretty sure by that point in time, the interest rate should be dropping. But, you know, like I said, if we had a crystal ball, it'd be great, but we don't. But that would be my my thoughts on it.
Mayor Panko?
Yeah, thank you. Like Councillor Robinson, there's no way to truly forecast where things are going to go, other than we know inflation is coming down. Economically, the reports are we're hopefully in for a soft landing, maybe even avoid a recession. If we avoid a recession, rates may not come down as quickly as if we did enter a recession. And so there's no right answer, but we're also historically high interest rates. We haven't seen rates like this in over 20 years. I like Councillor Robinson has a good point. I'm thinking even shorter term may have more merit, maybe 2 years, and see where things land in a couple of years. Recognizing that a 0.5% increase from a 4-year to a 2-year is only about $4,000 in interest based on roughly $800,000 amount. And if rates do go the way we do expect them to go, in a couple of years, we could hopefully renew at something that would be maybe even a couple of percentage points lower, resulting in a much greater savings, of course. So I tend to lean shorter term. I don't think a 1 year is going to do it. The variable is somewhat attractive, but to CEO Morris's point, I mean, we don't see ourselves paying this off. We have other priorities for our money. So I'm going to suggest a 2-year, but I'm fine if we move that a little bit, but definitely not a 10-year or a 5-year, I don't think.
Other questions? Hands up? Anyone else making comments?
Jay is.
I'm ready.
Jay? Okay, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like let's throw a dart at the wall and see where it lands. And I like both of Councillor Robinson's and the mayor's. So I would be like, split the difference and do a 3-year. But I mean, it's like, you never know. And, you know, this is going to be with us for a little while. And with any luck, things will come down. But that would be my preference, 3.
Councillor McGuire, did you have anything that you wanted to add
Yeah,
to
thanks,
this?
Madam Chair. I'd be okay with a 2-year. I think that's a good balance of the situation.
Any other comments? Councillor McKenna?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm with Councillor Brennan. 3. I mean, I don't know where we're going with this. 3 to 5 is fine with me. It's I'd rather stretch it out a little bit. 2 is too soon. But what do I know? The word I learned at AMO was the world is in polycrisis. There's so many variables happening around the world. We have very little control over the interest rates in Canada. So a 3 to 4 years, I'd be a happy guy, but I'll go with the majority.
Anyone else got any comments? I personally am leaning more towards the 4-year. I agree that if we too short term, we never know what we're going to get into. The 4-year isn't too bad a rate, and that gives us 4 years to look at what we can do with our finances. So in my personal opinion, I'm on the 4-year. So now I guess it's to decide which one we're all going to vote on. Be happy with. Councillor Miller, please.
Same sort of crystal ball theory as my colleagues. So I'm fine with 3 years, if that just helps start the ball rolling here.
Okay, so we have one with 3 years, And I believe the mayor was 2 years.
I'll go to a 3-year to reach consensus.
Okay. Other opinions here? I see Councillor McKenna shaking his head. And Councillor Robinson, anything else to add? Okay,
I can go to 3.
okay. Do we sound like we have a thumbs up with a 3-year? Great, there we go. You have your direction,
Great.
Treasurer, Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you very much.
All right, and now we have new appointments to boards. This would be with Director Costello.
Thank you. Looking this evening for council to formally appoint members to both the Heritage House Museum Advisory Board as well as one additional member to the Public Library Board. Emily Parker, Gary Lackey, Mark Gallagher, William Manhire, and Tamara Taylor have all put their names forward for the Heritage House Museum Advisory Board, and they have been vetted through staff. The second for the Public Library Board, the one additional appointment we have is Marilyn Murphy. And again, that has been vetted through their CEO, and looking for council to formally appoint at the meeting later this evening.
Comments? No, I see thumbs up. All good. Later on this evening, thank you. And anything further? No, then we have adjournment. And the recommended motion is that committee, sorry?
Madam Chair, I think the mayor had his hand up there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess with the budget, assuming being approved at council shortly, I guess, do we need to confirm community grants based on the delegations tonight, or is it simply assumed by staff that with the budget approved and with the previous support for these, that is all in place? And the deputy clerk has her hand up.
Clerk Costello?
Actually, I can speak to it, Councillor Quinn. I believe that the staff recommendations were supported. So typically what happens is upon third reading of the budget, there would also be agreements that night in place for the grants that are over 10,000 as they're adopted by bylaw, as well as there'll be a resolution to detail the grants and the allocation amounts for those organizations. So I think that's the understanding of the process, unless there was any concerns.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So does all that come forward this evening?
So that won't come forward until third reading of the budget, so the 21st.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're all set to adjourn?
Yes.
So recommend a motion that the committee adjourns its proceedings at 6:26 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called committee meeting. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can we get a mover and seconder for that?
See, I told you had to get me educated.
So
So I need a mover, please. I think Mayor Panko had his hand up, right? No?
Sure.
Okay, and a seconder. Councillor Robinson? Sure.
Okay.
Hey.
Thank you.
A few minutes to get things organized here.
Yeah, I'll just be 2 seconds and bring that into you, Mayor Panko, if that's okay.